Welcome to the Crowing Cockerel podcast. My name's Mark and I'm here with the usual suspects, Graham and Tom. And boys, oh my goodness, we did it. We survived. We're safe. Premier League football next season. I mean, it shouldn't have come to this, but how do we feel?
We are staying up. So we are staying up. Yeah, I mean, why has it taken us all season to do a home performance like that? And I really, I wasn't sure it was going to happen until Kinski made that save. In the 94th minute? It wasn't until that moment I went, I think we're going to be okay. despite, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but despite a really good performance today, and it was. Yeah, there were. We can talk about the whole season, but just thinking about today, it couldn't have gone. It couldn't have gone much better. And there were a couple of moments when I was nervous and I was still shouting at the telly. But if you step back and look at it as a performance, and fair play to Everton to actually making it a game, I think. It was so nice not to do it in the way that I felt like we were gonna.
Yeah,
It was so nice to end on a win at home with a result that saved us and saved us with a bit to spare. Yeah, I'm still not sure how, but I'm so glad we got there.
Yeah. I have to say, I'm just emotionally drained. I mean, we're recording. It's 9:10 on the Sunday evening, and it was really hot today, which didn't help. But I don't think I even really celebrated the goal because, for a start, football's ruined anyway. You can't celebrate a goal until it's had 15 checks and it's over the line, isn't it? Over the line, even though Danso stuck it in anyway.
Yeah.
So we still have to wait, don't we? And then but yeah, I the mass relief I felt at full time. It's absolutely fantastic. It's such a weird feeling, isn't it? Because you shouldn't celebrate a season like that, but in that single moment when the final whistle went for our third home game this season, it was just pure relief, and
I think today was not about worrying about what's happened for the whole previous 37 games, isn't it? Today was about Spurs needing to turn up under the most intense of pressure, and we did. And
fair play to West Ham, they put us under pressure.
Yeah.
I assume Leeds gave it a go for 20 minutes and then decided, that's
well, they did. So I had the West Ham game on my phone whilst I was watching Spurs on the main telly, and I have to say the first half, Leeds were all over them. But yeah, West Ham did what they needed to do.
Yeah.
But like you say, Tom, I mean, I have to say, I kind of disagree a little bit with what you said in terms of fair play for Everton to turning up. I don't think they turned up. I think they were on the beach. I think it was very reminiscent of Aston Villa, to be honest. It was so comfortable.
Look, it's not like they had loads of chances. And actually, I think that was one of our best matches for shots on goal. I think rarely have we seen ourselves so much on the front foot.
But since
I was expecting Everton maybe to come and just not play any part at all. There was a real sense in that sort of last 10, 15 minutes that they were trying to push for an equalising goal. I think they made a game of it.
Yeah, since De Zerbi's come in though, we have been actually pretty good defensively. Even the Chelsea game, yes, Chelsea aren't on fantastic goal scorers, but loads of chances, did they? It's not like we were in a situation similar to earlier in the season where we were just giving up chance after chance and shot, and we were lucky to get away from games without conceding 3 or 4.
Yeah,
I think there hasn't been a game where you think, crikey, we've been battered here.
Yeah,
I have to say I was a bit worried when the substitutions were made and what was it? Richie and Tell came off, and it was Colomwani and Sarr came on, wasn't it? And I just thought, okay, how are we going to get out now? And that was like with 20 minutes to go. I feared a bit of a backs to the wall. And I worried about that, 25 minutes to try and survive.
Committed crimes against Tottenham Hotspur against Chelsea, didn't he? But actually, his 20-minute cameo, he ran around an awful lot, put himself about.
Yeah, and I think that was exactly what we needed.
And now he can go, at least he's shown a bit of fight for the team, and off you pop back to probably Juventus or some other mad team that will suddenly make you a world beater. But we'll never understand why. But at least he did what Richarlison had struggled to do really for most of the game. It seemed very difficult for Richarlison today. And the fact that De Zerbi has got 11 points out of 7 games with that front three, statue just for that.
Yeah.
To be honest,
well, look,
how have you done that? And to be honest, I take Tell out of that criticism because I actually think Tell, apart from the mad penalty against Leeds, which fortunately never mattered in the end,
he's been brilliant.
I think he's been, a shining light under De Zerbi.
He's been better than the other two front people we had. There's been moments, there's been passes, there's been a bit of trickery, just as he did against Chelsea in those last 5-10 minutes, and just before he went off, there was that little bit of, I don't know, it's like he forgets that there's other people on the pitch, and I don't know whether he's getting tired or if he's just over trying, but there were moments just before he got subbed where I was thinking, why are you not passing the ball?
Just before he got subbed, all he had to do was slip,
lay into a doggy.
Huge chance. But I think that was down to tiredness. And I heard a little bit of moaning and groaning around the sort of 70 minutes. I cannot describe how hot it was in that stadium.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting and every now and again standing up, and I'm absolutely sweating buckets. It was horribly hot.
And you're not even that chunky.
Well, I know. Well, I was this morning. 16 stones. Yes. Forget Ozempic. Just go and watch football in 45 degrees. but I think it's very difficult to criticise, anything really today, because you're absolutely right, Mike. In isolation, with a game under that pressure, and whether they knew that West Ham were winning or not, they battled for themselves. They produced a performance that was enough to get a result. Against these, and against Everton, and of course, I think it really needs to be said that Kinsley made an absolutely fantastic save. But that was the moment. That was in the 94th minute.
Yeah, that was the moment that I actually went, okay, I think we're going to be all right. You're mentioning the front three there, Graham. I think you can't get away from how good the middle three were for us today. Bentancur, Gallagher, Palhinha.
Gallagher was immense.
I think, well, yes, he was. He was a real sort of engine in there. But for me, Bentancur for me was incredible today. And in the last sort of 5-10 minutes, you could see him properly tiring. And I think it was right that he came off at that point. But his control and his calmness and his ability to just, hold that ball and allow us, because in that game, that is exactly what we needed, especially when we were 1-0 up. We did not need to be herring and running around, which is what Gallagher's great at, which is what Palhinha is great at. We needed someone to put their foot on the ball and just find the simple pass. Yeah. So that middle three today were great.
Yeah, I have to say, I know we just said about Tell. I actually think that Bentancur coming back has been the most influential change, and it wasn't a change. It was, it was in force. Obviously, he came back to fitness. I think him being in there and he's really shown. He looked like the player that we signed back when we first signed him. He really kind of calm under pressure, good in tight spaces, making the right decisions. And he just epitomised everything that was good about Spurs and has done for these, basically since De Zerbi came in, isn't it? I can't remember whether he played under Tudor or whether it was kind of the same at the time De Zerbi came in, he suddenly came back into the team. It was
I think
there or
Tudor,
thereabouts,
he was
wasn't it?
lucky. I think he came back from injury, didn't he? Just as De Zerbi came in.
Yeah.
I think Tudor quite like Basuma. You know, I very much doubt he'll be there next season. But no, I think I do wonder if whether De Zerbi's sort of Italian heritage has also helped. You know, just bed Bentancur back in. Obviously, he'd had a fantastic time in Serie A, and he's had a dreadful time with injuries. But I completely agree. I think since he's come back in, we have looked more controlled, and we've really missed that sort of player. I just want to say one negative thing.
It's
Because
the only one you're allowed to take.
That's fine. That is fine. But it has really annoyed me, and I absolutely believe that under De Zerbi this will get fixed. But and I do think a lot of it was around pressure and, like Graham was saying, maybe the heat. You know, but I also, you know, against that opposition and against Leeds and also against Chelsea, the amount of missed passes at this level, I would love to know what the stats are, because we seem to be, you know, still struggling, you know, to just sort of knit those short, medium length passes together when that's the simple part of the game. And I really hope that over the summer that, you know, De Zerbi gets more time to install this confidence in the team, because I do believe that's probably it. The reason we were in this position, the reason that West Ham were in their position, was because we were both done over by two managers who just couldn't get us off the ground. Potter screwed West Ham, and Frank screwed us, to the point where both teams, I think, then really struggled to find any sort of form. And I think, you know, thank goodness De Zerbi came in when he did, because if we'd continued the way we were going, it would be the other way around.
Yeah. I mean, I think I need to get this point across, because I think we're going to be I'm going to say something different than will be on any of the other pods. Fair play to Vinay and Johan Lange for making that fantastic decision to get De Zerbi in. They deserve all the credit of getting us out of this relegation stuff.
Why does that feel laced with sarcasm, bro?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, De Zerbi, you can tell, knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know, I agree, Tom, that we struggle to, you know, pass it very quickly. I think although the midfield three was absolutely right for the situation we were in today, that cannot be the midfield setup. You know, if we want to achieve anything,
there needs to be more dynamic, doesn't it?
Work like there's no decent passing there forward. You know, really. I think Palhinha again needs a massive shout out for the, you know, really what he's done in critical games for us.
Oh God,
and you know, he's covering.
We're buying him, right?
De Zerbi has said 100% he wants to keep him.
Good.
Does he?
Good.
You know, so
we'll talk about that more in the end of season review, I guess. But yeah, he there's no doubt he has come up with some absolute match winning. You know, you go all the way back to the Wolves game at the start of the season when he scored that injury time goal. For me, I wouldn't say he's in the must sign category for me. I think he's no,
because I think we can shed a player like Basuma,
100%.
And I think, you know, if we're going to play three in the middle, I think, you know, you still need a Bergvall and a Gray, but then, you know, that's only two additional midfielders who are still quite young. You know, if you've got players like Gallagher, who's, you know, very experienced now, Bentancur and Palhinha, I think, you know, you've got some really good examples for those players.
Yeah, I just think the three are very similar, aren't they? I'm not averse to keeping Palhinha. I think that's a far better idea than keeping Basuma. As long, you know, and again, it all comes back, and again, we'll discuss this in another episode, but it all comes back to, well, what's done around that. If your summer business is keeping Palhinha, we're just going to be in this situation again, and that really, that's what I want to get a point over, is that so many teams have escaped relegation on the last day and then had a terrible season the next season as well. And my concern is,
well, that's what we did last season, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but it was a very different 17th, wasn't it? It was, even though we got more points this season, we were 5 games away from actually getting relegated. It wasn't, anywhere near getting close. It was a very different set of circumstances. But this is one of the things that concerns me, and they've lucked out with De Zerbi. And De Zerbi's got 11 points out of 7 games. So if you extrapolate that over the season, that's potentially getting into the top 8.
Yeah,
which I would take. I would take right now.
You would do with this squad, and the problem is, Ange's probably sitting there going, "Wow, if you think about it, we don't actually need any players because we're going to get Kudus back. Madison's going to come back, and apparently there's a rumor sometime in 2028 Kulusevski's coming back. So, so why do we need to buy any players? Because with this squad, De Zerbi can probably finish top 6.
Yeah, look, like you say, I think this is one we say for the next episode.
Yeah,
but
I guess my short question is do you think this season has scared the hierarchy? Oh, as it should have done.
Surely. I mean, surely.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, but if there is not a huge summer this summer, I know that there's been so much noise about the ownership for years. Obviously with Levy and now with the current owners, but there can be no excuse now. We have got away with one. We've absolutely got away with, and I know the thing that frustrates me a little bit is that we discount last season's 17th, but from my perspective, you can stick as many asterisks as you want against that, saying, "Oh yeah, Europa League, blah 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 blah." We have finished 17th 2 seasons in a row. That is not a fluke. That is not a statistical anomaly. That is us finishing 17th the last 2 seasons. And if we want to change that, then major things have to change. You can't just keep on doing the same things and just sort of go, "Oh yeah, but we're Tottenham Hotspur. It'll be fine." If that hasn't shocked them to their absolute core and they understand that we have got away with one big time, and the changes that need to happen to make sure that we are never in this position again, if that doesn't happen, then it'd be criminal.
But this is it. This is it. So I was on the train back with most of West Ham because my train goes through Stratford. And fair play to the West Ham fans. It was sort of gallows humour that they all seem to be coming out with. So and football fans get a bad rep. But bear in mind that all the games finished at the same time. So through London, you had Arsenal fans, West Ham fans, and Spurs fans with very, very different emotions, all mixing, on trains and in stations. And I didn't see any trouble at all.
Great.
It had some friendly banter. I will be honest, the Arsenal fans were annoying, but I guess, they have just won the Premier League. So, you sort of just let them get on with it for a day, don't you? Because to be honest, that's not the biggest news of the season, is it? Spurs getting nearly relegated is still outshining that. But I think my point is that West Ham are a massive example of what can happen with Spurs, because there is no way West Ham should be in the Championship with a 60,000 seater stadium in London with the players that they've got. How they've managed to get themselves
and they won a European trophy a couple of years ago.
Yeah, exactly. You could hold up a mirror, couldn't you?
If anybody's thinking that, phew, we got away with it, now we're going to be okay, it needs massive change and massive action.
Yeah, so I'm going to pick up on both of your points there. So Mark's first point about sort of, the club they can't sit on their laurels. I think more importantly about who we bring in will be about who we ship out. So and I'm not going to say any more on that. I'm going to extrapolate that further in the next episode. But I think there is things we need to do to move people out, and I think we need to be brave. So I will be saying things that I think might annoy you both when it comes to the next episode. So stick around for that. The other
no
point
change
you said,
there, then.
oh, absolutely not. The other point you make there, Graham, about we absolutely shouldn't have been in this position, and you look at what happened to West Ham. One of the most beautiful things about today was how much everybody else wanted Tottenham to be the one that went down. And for us to not only get over the line, but to get over the line with a win at home, despite all the efforts of West Ham. And this is not a West Ham hating thing. They absolutely battered Leeds. They did everything they had to do. And in the end, just as Frank screwed us, Potter screwed them. And at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough.
Well, they've gone down with 39 points. That would have saved them for the last 14 seasons.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's an absolute kicker, right? So I have some sympathy for West Ham fans, but everybody else wanted Spurs to go down. All the conversation, I haven't heard loads of conversation around West Ham going down. All I've heard is about how embarrassing, how funny it would be if Spurs got relegated.
Well, the interesting thing is that, there's social media, which you've got to be careful of judging anything on, because obviously algorithms just, because we're Spurs fans, we don't get the Spurs stuff. But Sky were obviously doing the last day thing, weren't they? And all their promotion was around, Spurs and West, the relegation fight, when there was a huge fight at the other end of the table, wasn't there, for Europe and
it's funny you say that. I was thinking the same.
Fantastic story, because two teams that have ended up getting in the Europa League.
Fair play, Sunderland.
Absolutely fair play to them. Bournemouth and Sunderland. Round of applause, because Sunderland were tipped to be going straight back down. So, it's fantastic then. And usually, the Champions League thing, if the league has already been sorted, is the big story, isn't it? But it just goes again to show, you could be hated all your, it could be laughed at all we want, but actually it's because it's such a massive club and it is such a story. If Spurs had got relegated, it would have been as big a story as Leicester getting
100%
into winning the league.
100%. Yeah, it would. I mean, and it's exactly that. People will continually say, "Oh, how can you call Spurs a big club?" But it's exactly that. It's the fact that everybody is interested.
About them.
Yeah, exactly. And this is it. It's just it's a massive middle finger up to most of the rest of the football world, isn't it? It's like, you wanted us down. Well, look at us. We managed to survive, and now we've got to make sure that we take advantage of that. And as I say, make sure we're never in this position again. It's ridiculous.
Even though, my goodness, we like to do it to ourselves, don't we? We like to make it as hard as possible. All the stuff around Romero before the game. And then all of us, it was worse that he was then there. It just looks so.
He didn't get a great reaction. He didn't get booed, but he didn't get a great reaction when he was walking around the pitch.
He just needs to go. And I messaged you guys in the week. I messaged you guys to say that he's look, for me, he's got to go. I cannot be doing with him. And I said, but with that in mind, if you had to choose now with the players that we've got on the pitch, who's your captain? And I'm really glad that I was able to watch the game today and see how brilliant and committed and how calm and solid once again Kevin Danso was. I have slight reservations about Van der Ven. I actually thought that was his best game in weeks.
I think Van der Ven has been really good since De Zerbi came in. And again, it just shows what having just a reasonable coach does.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just wanted to take a moment to sort of just shout out Danso, because for me,
it's been great
in the last few weeks, of the players that were on the pitch and who were sort of absolute nailed on starters. Because I think even De Zerbi said, like, Archie Gray could be a future captain of Tottenham. Well, okay, but that's great, but you're not actually playing him. Roberto. So, if you're going to have to choose a captain on the pitch, Danzo's absolutely 100% stepped up in the absence of Romero, who I think has been an absolute shower this season. And for me, it was almost embarrassing that he came back and sat on that bench for the positions he's put us in this season. So
it was just bizarre, isn't it? It was just bizarre that anybody would think going off to Argentina was okay, apparently for rehab. Well, for the World Cup, but give it a day.
Yeah. I mean, we've got so much to talk about next week, haven't we? Like there is so much to talk about next week, and that will definitely be a topic. If I may have my one allocated moan for this episode, Vicario drove me insane with what he was up to on the sidelines. Like, I didn't see any of that. So what was God!
The cameras were showing him just quite animated.
He never sat down. He had a bust up with Seamus Coleman. He was there virtually strangling De Zerbi when we scored the goal. It's just sit down, shut up, stay off the pitch, and let a proper goalkeeper do what he needs to do. But yeah, he was again. I don't see how he can possibly be a Spurs player again next season either. But
it's interesting because I've very, very briefly read the post-match from De Zerbi, and he's asked which players would be really valuable to you, and it's interesting the list in there. So he tells a story about Kinski, how he was seriously thinking about making him captain against Sunderland.
Wow!
Just to show everybody how important he was to the squad, which I think fair play. That's decent management. That, and how Dragusin, he actually name checked Dragusin because although he hasn't played, he said he's in the around the group is really, really positive and really, really upbeat. And again,
can someone tell his agent that then?
Well, again, you sort of read between the lines, don't you? And there's some interesting names missing. Put it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think I've mentioned it. I've mentioned in a previous pod that I think one of the worst things we've done this season is have this sort of, over bloated leadership group. And from some of the stuff, you do read online. Obviously, take it all with a pinch of salt. But some of the issues that we've had this year seem to have come from those cliques, from those sort of personalities in the dressing room, which perhaps, we've needed a manager like De Zerbi to pull it all together. And today was just like, it really was the epitome of the new manager bounce. It felt like we appointed De Zerbi last week, and this was the performance we were waiting for. It was just so much better.
I mean, we have been owed 2 manager bounces that we didn't get on the previous managers, so maybe we were just getting them a bit late, But I think one thing I wanted to say as well, like I said, I really want to try and focus on today and not worry too much about the wider scheme of things. But the fans, I think, again, the fans did us proud again today. I mean, my God!
Well done, Graham.
Yeah, well done, Graham.
Well, and this of course is after an article, I believe, in the Observer. From the chief sports, and I forget her name, but she basically did an article saying that the reason Spurs are in the trouble they are is because of the fans.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
So up yours, frankly, because I think we're incredibly supportive and incredibly resilient despite what we're put through, and despite what I think
the home record over the last 2 years,
and the fair expectations that we have, given how we're constantly told that the financials mean we're the 9th richest club in the world. You shouldn't even be 9th in the Premier League, let alone 17th, because it's just ridiculous that so to be criticised for hounding out Thomas Frank because we didn't give him a chance. That is from somebody that did not watch the football that we were having to put up with. And the stupid thing is, she's even got a body of work from De Zerbi for the previous 6 games that shows that actually with all these injuries, you can still play a reasonably competitive level of football that doesn't involve sitting back for 95 minutes and hoping that Dansos chucks a long throw in.
I mean,
it's just like, what are you writing? Yeah.
If that's not the perfect, Graham, it's such a good point. That's not the perfect example of displaying how good a coach De Zerbi is, because all the other managers had the injury problems. He called it out quite early doors, saying, "I really wanted Kudus to come back." But he's not had the attacking options. He's not had a fit Dom Solanke. He's not had an in-form Kolo Muani. He's had a sort of flash in the pan, and yes, better than most tell, but he's not had a sort of productive Richarlison. So, I mean, what he's had to work with, and to still grind out the results and the points we needed, it's incredible.
It really is.
Deserves all the credit.
I mean, it really is incredible when you think about how bad a form we were in and where we were trending when he first came in. I mean,
we hadn't won a game in 2026 in the Premier League when he came in.
And we hadn't looked like winning one. Yeah, we hadn't looked like winning one.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go back to all of the episodes we had around that time, and I mean, we called it so early that we said we were kind of sleepwalking to relegation, all the rest of it, and yeah, I could not see a way out. I could not see any light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't see how it was possible to turn it round, because there was nothing. There was literally no sign whatsoever of us being capable of doing it. So for him to have come in so late, as you say, and managed to turn it around, and in the backdrop of the fact that everyone else in the relegation zone had such amazing form.
Yeah.
As I say, like West Ham have gone down in 39 points.
Yeah, and remember, they've got most of those in the second half of the season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were awful. They were they were dead and buried in the first half, wasn't it? I mean, yeah. I mean, fair play to to Leeds and Forest and everyone around there. But it's been an amazing kind of relegation race, really. Now that we're finished and you can kind of look back on it.
I don't even know what happened at the other end.
I don't.
I've heard some noise, but honestly, it hasn't even touched the sides. It's like everybody will forget about that by
quick
tomorrow.
Quick question. I mean, how much did they pay Crystal Palace to put on that much of a party for them? I mean,
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I've not seen it.
It was on the radio while I was driving, and it was sounding like like someone had booked a wedding at Selhurst Park.
That's an absolute disgrace. Then
we're definitely not talking about that rubbish.
No,
but the thing about the fans, Graham, Paulinho did an interview on the pitch afterwards. I think it was with Sky, and you could almost see. I mean, he scored the goal to keep us up. And yet you could see almost how apologetic he was. He was saying these fans, and you could see the sort of thought process going on in his head, because he couldn't quite fathom it. He says, these fans are cheering for us. He says, I've not known anything like it, because we haven't given them anything to get behind all season. And yet I'm experiencing this level of support and this level of sort of togetherness, in that moment. That must have been massive for them today, because, hand on heart, they haven't deserved it with the performances that we've had, at least sort of up until sort of mid-April. It's been such a dire watch. And
Van der Ven put a Instagram message out, didn't
they? They didn't get it either. They did. That place was toxic up until mid-April.
Yeah.
Deservedly so.
Absolutely deservedly so. There is no way that the fans can be blamed for anything that's gone on. The performances were pathetic, frankly, and I do mean frankly, both as a pun, as emphasis. So the fans cannot be blamed for anything that's happened at all. And they've been fantastic under the Derby. But again, we go back to the De Zerbi effect. All it needed was effort, pressing, and trying to attack.
Yeah.
We're quite able to see that our front three was championship standard at best. But didn't hear the fans getting on the players' backs because they could see the effort being put in, especially from Tel. But of course, Colin Marley put a full performance in like he did against Chelsea. He got rightly ridiculed for it. You can't just walk around and look like you don't care. That is never ever going to relate you to the fans, is it?
Yeah. No, it is. It's. And it's. I guess the question now really is. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because like, how do you feel? I mean, that final whistle blew.
Tired.
Yeah, and it was kind of. I didn't. I guess because the game was so comfortable as well, so that it could have been so
Horrible.
tense.
Yeah.
It could have been. So I think it was pretty clear as soon as we kind of went into injury time, they would have needed 2 goals to turn it round, and they. I mean, yes, there was obviously that brilliant save by Kinski, but apart from that's all they had, wasn't it, for the whole of the game? So it was as comfortable as you could get in that situation. So when the final whistle blew, it was just this relief, but there wasn't this kind of huge reaction like I thought there would be. Because I'd felt it all through the season.
I thought there would be some sort of like ironing out chant or something like that straight away. But I do want to say at this point that I put the predictions out on social media, and I cut them a little bit. So
yeah, you did. We did notice that.
The context of you doing the prediction for
the carnival
for today,
atmosphere.
But you were right. So at the end of the game, it was a fantastic carnival atmosphere, and you were spot on. So you can have a point for that, because I feel like you were unjustly ridiculed because of slightly because. And to be fair, we don't care what other people say. It's like, but it was it was at the end of the game. It was not dissimilar to what happened in Bilbao at the end of the game.
It's just as
outpouring of joy.
It's just as
there
important.
Wasn't the.
I would say.
We're going to boo you as you walk round, or anything like that.
No,
I would say it's more important, and I think the sense of relief, and of course you were thinking then, oh, okay, well maybe now here comes the joy. I think the joy is tapered by the fact that we still know we've got a long way to go. Because
but I think that's for tomorrow, isn't it? That's the thing. I think, and I've seen some posts sort of saying, right now we're safe. Langer and Vinay, get out of my club, and I'm just like, yeah, but that's not going to solve anything. What we need now is.
I mean, I'll be honest, Mark. It will go some way to solving some things.
but then we're back where we started.
Langer's been at the club, a lot longer than Vinay, and I'm struggling to see what he's done to make us competitive in the Premier League. He's brought some good young players in, but I think the January transfer window is an absolute sackable offence, and there is no way that somebody should be paid an awful lot of money after doing that.
So I just to put another slant on that, and it's not one. This is not one that I necessarily agree with myself, but I did listen to. I can't remember who it was now, but somebody was basically saying, obviously, Vinay's come in, and this is his first year at the top, and in a normal business, you get a time to sort of see what you're doing and figure it out. And he's kind of been doing that in the background. But unfortunately, at a football club, you have stuff going on the pitch whilst you're doing that. And you don't have any of that time to kind of get the lay of the land or anything like that, because football is there. It's week in, week out. And the pressure is immediate. So obviously there have been lots of changes going on throughout the season. Some of them positive, some of them not so positive. But For me, I don't see, certainly with Vinay, I mean, Langer is a different story, but I don't see it being a positive move to boot Vinay out and have all this turmoil and change yet again over the summer at the club. We need that stability, we need that foundation, and to build from that, in my opinion.
All I want this summer is football. That's
well, you're
all
going to get
I
that.
want.
It's a World Cup.
Yeah.
Are we?
I just want.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The football stuff
To be about football. Yeah.
I don't want the Romero going over to Argentina. I don't want the absolute horrendousness of, Igor Tudor joining us, having to leave, his father dying. I don't want
the official link up with Peppa Pig merchandise.
Yeah, I don't want it.
To be fair, since we've done that, 11 points.
Good luck, Charm.
6 games.
Good luck, Charm.
So
I just want it to be about the football, and the one thing that gives me hope about that is De Zerbi. I think here is a guy who just gets it and has the passion and understands the basics, of not just sort of putting your arm around a player, but the basics of what you need to do to win a game of football.
Yeah.
When I think, with Frank and with Tudor, both of them were pragmatists, and actually, what you need sometimes is a desire for the chaos to reign, and De Zerbi understands that, and he will,
especially at this club,
absolutely, and
to dare is to do,
and you put yourself in that position, and you feel the pain. And my goodness, we've been there so many times. But I think he's a manager that absolutely fits that mold, and that's what I want the conversation to be about. Sort of from here on in, I don't want another boardroom saga. And if there's one to be had, just shut up about it and get on with it quietly and scootle off it. Try and do it on World Cup final night, so that
bury the news.
It's just I want us to just do the football and not all the noise and the mess that we seem to have attracted. We seem to have been a magnet to sort of all of the noise that wasn't anything to do with about football. And all that's done is sort of added to the strain and the stress. So today was about sort of just releasing the valve and allowing us all just to take that final breath of relief. And I didn't feel joy and excitement at the end. In all honesty, I was just happy it was over and that we were okay.
Yeah, exactly. Let's wrap it up. I mean, what do we think? What are our feelings for the future now? We all said, relegation would have obviously been a complete disaster financially, and all the players would have left and all the rest of it. We now have survived. We've guaranteed Premier League football for next season. What are our immediate thoughts in terms of what we think next season might hold?
Right off the bat, I think, especially with some of those middle teams, getting into European football and the pressure that brings, for me, I'm going to say what I've been saying for the past 20 years, boys. Top 10 in a cup. That would make me very happy indeed.
From my point of view, I think it just cannot be allowed to happen again. And it's the injuries and the lack of squad depth has done it both seasons.
And quality.
But again, I think that's because half your first team is out injured all the time. So I think De Zerbi has rightly said he's come up with today and said, I've got 12 players. I now need a squad and I have a dream. So let's see how long the relationship holds. But I think if De Zerbi does get some control and some backing, I think there's reasons to be positive in the medium term. I don't think suddenly we're going to be fantastic next season.
No. I think you're right. I think there's a potential for it to be an exciting summer. If the Lewis family have been as scared as the rest of us this season, and understand the fact that they've now got a top quality manager in place, and to essentially just give him a virtually blank checkbook to say, right, what do you need? What do you need to make this happen? It feels like we have the resources now to do something big this summer. So let's hope we do it. But yeah, I'm with you, Tom. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad that I don't have to go into work and have people who don't care about football asking me about football anymore. The world is going to return back to normality again. Spurs are a Premier League team. And yeah, let's hope we get a productive summer and we can do it all over again come next season.
Yeah. And well done us for keeping going on a consistent basis.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe it was our fault all along.
well, let's see if we can make it through the summer and come back. Look, we started all right, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, your Thomas Frank kept us up.
Yeah.
So, thanks to everybody that's listened throughout the season. Really appreciate any comments, support, or whatever.
It's been a tough one, I know. It's been a tough one.
We'll look to do a proper review of the season. A bit off the wall, hopefully, and come back next season, raring to go, full of hope and positivity, ready for it to be shattered by October.
Absolutely. But we are staying up.
We are staying up. Come on, you Spurs.
Spurs.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you.